Over 100 stakeholders were engaged in a study to determine how coastal fishing communities, namely Belize City, Dangriga, and San Pedro Town, have been affected by climate change. The scope of the data was over a 30-year period from 1991 to 2020. Today's event is the fifth in a series of consultations to enhance adaptation for vulnerable communities and vulnerabilities within coastal zone and fisheries. The aim is essentially to make the country resilient to climate change.
Today, the findings are going to be presented and validated by the stakeholders. It's important because it helps to build resilience for the key sectors of the fisheries sector, as well as within the coastal zone, within communities, which are priority areas. They're heavily impacted by the impacts of climate change, whether it's sea level rise, erosion, changes in temperature, intense hurricanes. The findings will be used to build long-term readiness projects to ensure the viability and the longevity of the fisheries sector.
So influencing policy, basically.
Yes.
The process began earlier this year. An international consultant, Dr. Asha Singh, says that even though some of the data is unavailable, the impact of climate change can be seen and felt across these three communities.
Overwhelmingly, yes. Climate change is affecting Belize. Climate change is affecting Belize City. Climate change is affecting Dangriga Town. I cannot say much about San Pedro because the data that I would require for rainfall, etc., there isn't a data station. But if we can speculate based on the information for these two cities, yes, San Pedro is being affected by climate change. So that's one of the major foundation to the study. We are being affected. One of the things that we looked at is the exposure, how much we're exposed to these impacts that I've just mentioned. What is the sensitivity? How sensitive are we? And how are we adapting? And in all aspects, I can say that these are very high for these communities.
The study showed that Belize City is most adversely affected by climate change. Rising sea level, floods, erosion, and warmer temperatures were among the 27 indicators that were identified and used in the study. So how has the fisheries sector been affected?
The fisheries sector is very vulnerable. Why is it vulnerable? Because it occupies a set of stakeholders, or I would say it employs a set of Belizeans that really rely on those resources, who pretty much don't have much more of an occupation, but no fisheries for 30 odd years or even more. And when you have issues like climate change that start having where the fish becomes moving further away because the water is warming, when you put that to a fisherman who just have a canoe that would just go out there to fish, it really comes down to livelihood and his ability to feed his family. So it becomes very, very critical when we look at these sectors.
Blue Economy Director Maxine Monsanto says that the study is one of two that is ongoing, and the report will be made available for everyone so that future planning can take into consideration climate change adaptation when making investments.
There are multiple portions to the readiness project. So vulnerability and livelihood assessment is one. Another one is stakeholder engagement. An assessment has been already completed for that, and the development of a stakeholder engagement committee is being finalized. The next one is gender evaluation and assessment. That is also already, these are all ongoing activities. Last one is an assessment of the value-added chain within the fisheries sector.
Dwayne Moody for News 5.